Tessa Hadley, you're a judge on this year's BBC National Short Story Award. How have you found the judging process so far?
Really exciting, actually. It's much more fun judging short stories than it is if you ever have judged a novel competition, because the size is just right. You can genuinely have conversations in depth about the detail of the work, and that's kind of what I love best. And there's a lovely team of judges. We've had some excellent talk. It's been lovely.
From all the reading that you've done, what would you say is the state or health of the short story form in the United Kingdom now?
I don't know whether a form has a health, in a way. There are just individual writers doing it. I suspect because of lots of writers writing now, I'm sure that's a phenomenon, more people have a go. Short story is a very natural place to begin, though not everybody begins with it. I think people sort of know what they want to do. I think they've got enough models out there of good short story writers. They have a hunch of the kind of thing they like and that they're aiming at. I think it's thriving.
Can you tell me a little bit about each of the shortlisted stories you judges have chosen this year?
Okay, 5 extraordinarily different stories, both in content and actually perhaps even more significantly in their treatment. There's John McGregor's Wires, which has a sinister little story. One doesn't quite know where the threat in it comes from. It's off stage and then suddenly moves centre stage very unexpectedly. And the special feature about that story that's so striking is how deadpan or offhand the narrative voice actually is. The girl in whose head we sort of hear it all happening has this carelessness about her talk which makes the threat all the more strange and off-centre. So that's a very unsettling little story. The KJ Orr is about the returning astronaut, and it's just delicately written. It's a very evanescent, subtle, understated story. Nothing is spelled out as this man and his wife find everything on earth made strange for them by having been off it, or his having been off it, but it happens for his wife as well. And it's beautifully, sort of exquisitely underdone. The Heart of Dennis Noble by Alison MacLeod, it's got 2 of the most memorable sections in it that I think they will always stay with me. And perhaps my favourite of all is where the young doctor, experimenting on how heartbeats work, goes every morning to a slaughterhouse and purchases for £4, which was a lot of money in those days, 2 fresh hearts, and then cleanses them, pops them in his thermos flask into this special solution and takes them back to the lab. Marvellous stuff, you know, and told just right so that your attention actually is not on the telling at all, it's all on the quite extraordinary thing and the quite extraordinary change in life, literally in that doctor's life, years and years later, when he needs a heart op himself and is dependent on the very technology he's invented. Marvellous, thrilling modernity to that. I've lost count. Where am I, Simon?
MJ Highland, we could talk about next.
The MJ Highland is a lovely story of 2 young people with nothing, no money, not much prospect, who play at being wealthy for a day. And that's done, again, with great understatement all through the very plain narrative of the young man, who is not the fantasist, who actually wants to keep his feet on the ground, and it's his crazy, extravagant, needy girlfriend who's both the inspirer. I mean, she's sort of bigger than him, and yet she's dangerous, and in the end, they spoil it all. They spoil their relationship through their fantasy game of being rich people in a penthouse on a cruise liner. That's done with this wonderful tell the story, show us the stuff, leave the rest for the reader. And then finally there's D.W. Wilson's The Dead Roads, where again, a little bit like the McGregor, although it couldn't be more different in its timbre, it's all in the narrative. A marvellous story too, but perhaps the story itself, we've seen before, 3 Canadian teenagers off on a trip, and there's 2 young men and a woman, and there's tension around the woman extraordinary landscape of dead trees and a fairground. It's almost Werner Herzog. But the telling, the voice, the sort of vernacular of that youth group and that Canada, the boy who's telling is not followed the girl to university, and you sort of feel this is a fork in the road, and she's going to go one way and he's going to go the other, and that's sort of heartbreaking. But there's something so relaxed, so at home with the writer inside the words that's delicious.
At least 2 of the shortlist have studied creative writing MAs, and another 2 currently work as creative writing teachers. How do you think the explosion of creative writing courses in the UK in recent years is affecting short story writing here?
But I should confess that I also teach on an MA creative writing, so I'm part of the conspiracy. I expect it is. I mean, I think MAs are getting more people writing, or getting more people writing to a good standard. Doing a lot of publishers' work for them, I suspect, these days. All the kind of editorial apprenticeship work that agents and publishers used to do has slightly been loaded off to an earlier stage in the MA courses. I absolutely don't think what some people say suspiciously, which is that MA creative writing imposes a kind of uniformity. I think the 2 stories in our shortlist which come off MA creative writing courses just exemplify that. Nobody could have told either KJ Orr or D.W. Wilson how to write. They're their own people, they're doing it their own way, and I don't think you can tell anybody how to write, even less good writers. You can only ever write yourself. What a good course or a good editor or a good agent or a good friend can help you with is speeding up, facilitating the process of you finding that right voice and becoming who you need to be in writing. On the whole, it's encouraging, it democratises the thing. Don't forget, most writing in Britain was done by a tiny elite of people from a certain background for most of the 20th century, and this changes things a bit. You still need money to get on a creative writing course.
Judges often cite memorability as a subjective but influential factor in their decision about a story. How important has a story sticking in your mind after you've read it been to you as a judge?
Yes, very. I think if it isn't worth remembering, it's not worth telling. So all of these stories have stuck in my mind. At the same time, another one of the delights of a really good story is that you remember it, it's powerful inside you, then you go back to it and it's different again. And actually that happened with rereading all of these several times. Each time there are things in it that you'd forgotten, and you hear or feel the whole slightly differently.
Tessa Hadley, thank you very much.
Thank you.